Okay, welcome everyone. As once again, I dock back into our flagship station at the Avoda Zara Daf Beis Zev of Fairways, and we are sponsored by Sholem Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yudaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zeb, and for a great shidduch for Chayat Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We are also sponsored by Bachian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, and for Liba Bas Anya should have a refuah shalema. We are sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Beil Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry, the refuah shalema for Taiva Reiza Bas Hinda, for great Zivik for their daughter, and for their grandchildren. We are sponsored by Menachem Umansky, with a tefillah that all those that are awaiting their shidduch should find their shidduch quickly and easily. And we're sponsored by Eddie Chazan for the safety of Klal Yisrael and the nitzachon and safety of the IDF. We have another sponsorship tonight. Sponsoring the Chumash year this week will be Shimon Klein, who is now in Eretz Yisrael, and I remember that he asked me to the yahrzeit day of the yahrzeit is Dalit of tonight, and he asked me to learn for his mother Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas. Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas. Her neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should be a Melitza Yashar for her family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. Today, Gimelov was my father's yahrzeit. We just had to see him. Lili Nishmasai, Aaron Tzvi ben Meir. His neshama should have a great aliyah. We are holding by Vitris She'ena Trufa, which, I stopped in a funny place. We're holding by Viramini, which is 5 lines from the bottom, and that is, we said that the liquid that drips off the grapes is not machshir the grapes to be mekabel tumah, and yet we learned Viramini habaytzer legas, one who harvests for wine in the press, Shamay Aimer Hochsher, the liquid that oozes out is machshir the grapes, Hillel Lama Lo Hochsher, v'odelehu Hillel l'Shamay, and Hillel returned to say, like Shammai, that the liquid renders the grapes susceptible. So which one is it? Says the Gemara, that's different. Hosam kabayle lamashka. There, when they're harvesting the grapes for the press, they obviously want the liquid to come out. And when you want the liquid to come out, then it is machshir, the item, to be mekabel toma. Hosam, over there they're picking the grapes to hacha, over here they're picking the grapes to eat. Like kabayle lamashka, they don't want the liquid to ooze out, and since they're not nicha, it's not machshir mekabel toma. Now, the Torah she'ena trufa, and tuna that's not cut up is permitted even to be eaten. Tana Rabbanan, Ezel Torah she'ena trufa. What does it mean? Tuna that is not cut up. Kol sherosh v'shidra niker, where you could see the head and the spine recognizably, because we'll see that tummy dika fish don't have a spine. If you remember, we learned earlier that the Gemara thought that it's possible that tummy dika fish can't survive in a swift current because they don't have a spine. The Gemara says they can, but they don't have a spine. The ezut sir sheyesh badaga, when it says brine that has the fish of kilbis inside it, because kilbis could only survive in kosher brine. Kol shekilbis achas oy shtei kilbiyos shoitetes bay. If it has one or two kilbiyos swimming in the brine. So obviously the Gemara asks the obvious question. Hashte kilbis achas amritshari. If one kilbis is enough, shtei kilbiyos mebayu, why does it have to say two? So the Gemara says, like kasha, kan b'peiseches, b'soichachas. One is talking about where the barrel is open. So where a barrel is open, one kilbis might have fell in. So it's not enough of a proof. There you need to have two kilbis. Kan b'sesaimais, if it's sealed, then it's enough, even if it has one kilbis. I just want to take the opportunity to say that we welcome back Marshall, who has been an extreme truant. And Marshall, what's going on over here? There's been...
Try working in a garage in 100-degree weather in the shade.
Well, get yourself air conditioning.
That's the office. I wish the cars came in cold.
You mean it's just too expensive to air condition the shop?
Not worth it. Always opening and closing a door. It just doesn't pay.
Really? It wouldn't help because you open and close the door?
I got 5,000 square feet. It'll cost a fortune to cool it.
Oh, okay. I'm saying.
I open the door, the temperature goes right back.
But I can't imagine the tsar of the workers to work in that heat.
Well, we all lose a couple of pounds. Well, last night I crawled into bed at 7 o'clock. I just was gone. And I wasn't even at work yesterday.
You know, every time you open your mouth, you put your foot in it.
It's better than those Franks, I said.
Also keep cool.
Okay. Imar. Now it said, Torish,
Where are we at?
we're holding in Avoda Zara, Bavli, and we're holding 3 lines from the top of Mem Amud Aleph. 3 lines from the top of Mem Amud Aleph. Imar. We said that Torah Sheina Trufa means that you could recognize the head and the spine. Imar Rav Huna Amar, you need both. Achete Roish Vishidra Neker. You have to see the head and the spine. Rav Nachman Amar Oy Roish Oy Shedra. Either you could discern the head, and you notice it's the head of a kosher fish, or the spine. Masav Rav Kubachamo B'dogim. By fish, the siman isn't the head or the spine. The siman is fins and scales. That which has fins and scales. The sign isn't the head. Amar Abaya, Kitan Yahid. It was necessary because of Ba'ora Ufalmuda. Now we don't know which fish this is referring to. We don't know the details of these fish, but the Ora and the Talmuda, their heads look like the head of a non-kosher animal, but because they have scales and fins, they're kosher. The Damu Reishayu L'Tmeim, their head looks like a Talmudic fish, and yet they're kosher because they have fins and scales. Amr Rav Yehuda Mishmei De'ula, Machloikes L'Tabel B'Tziroin. The machlokes is only that one man Yahama holds you could be lenient if you have the head or the spine in order to dip in the brine. Aval begufan, but to eat the fish itself, divrei hakol, everybody holds aser ad sheyeh roish v'shidra niker, until you could recognize the head and the spine. Amar Rabbi Zera says, now that I heard that, merei shava metablinam b'tziran, initially I would dip in the brine if I had one sign, either the head or the spine. Kaven de Shemana Lahadam Rav Yehuda Mishmei De'ula Machlokes L'Tabel B'Tzura Nava Begufan, but to eat it itself Divra Kol Aser Ad Shei Roish V'Shedra Niker, until the head and the spine is recognizable. So that means that really you can't tell for sure unless you see both the head and the spine. Therefore, I don't have the brine either until I see both the head and the spine. But Tzira Nami Lo Mitabilna, unless I see both the head and the spine. Rav Papa says, Hilkasa, The law is for each of the fish, you have to see each of the tourists in the lot. You have to see the head and the spine. Meisvei, what do you mean? We learned that even if one of the pieces has a siman of a kosher fish, you can eat all the pieces. Meisvei chaticha sheyesh b'hem siman, a piece of fish that has either a fin or a scale, bein b'kulon, bein b'miksasin, whether it's in all the pieces or even in some of the pieces, v'afilu be'echad memeya shaban, even one of 100 kulon mataris. They're all mutter. So you see, you don't need to have each and every piece. He brought a barrel full of pieces, and it was assigned with one of them. He permitted the whole barrel. Says, well, that's because you could see they were all pieces of one big fish. You could put them together and see that they were pieces of one fish. When all the pieces would match each other and make one fish. Says, then what's the chiddush? That maybe one piece fell in that wasn't part of the big fish. No, we don't worry about that. Now, I should start welcoming people in. Dr. Block, Yitzi Fuchs, Mel Zachter, Saba, Menachem Yamansky, Yaakov Warman, Michal, Mo Kushner, Eddie Chazan, Yisrael Fisher, Rabbi Kranz, Ben Zion Cohn, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Guy, Nachman Chapler, Marshall Castle, Shelley Zeitman, Danny Vogel, Naftali Jablin, Moshe Lehman, Stephen Holtzman, Ilya Shudman, Yitzi Muller, Avram Rezepkowitz, Abe Arbach. Here in Shul, we have Berish Gesserman, we have Danny Vogel, we have Ruvain Shannet. There was a boat full of the sultanas fish, the Osi Lesichra, Nafik Ravuna Bar Chinina, the Chaza Beit Kalpe, and he saw some scales, Visharye, and permitted the whole batch. Now, this begs the question, because we said the sultanas, other fish could get mixed in with them, and they could get confused. So the Rishonim say it's talking about over here where this batch of Sachanta was salted. When it's salted, they wouldn't put in non-kosher fish because it would absorb from the non-kosher fish and make it not taste well. Amalei Rava, so Rava said, just because they found some scales around, is that enough? Nafik shipurei de Rava. So the shofar, or the agents of Rava, went out va'aser and asered the tzachanta. However, shipurei de Rav Huna bar Chinna v'shari. But the agents of Rav Huna bar Chinna went out and permitted it. To me, Rav Papi told, Ki shara Rav Huna bar Chinna only betziran, the brine. Aval begufan loy, but not the actual fish. Amar Rav Ashi l'didi amali Rav Papa ki shara Rav Huna bar Chinna afilo begufan, even the fish itself. However, va'ano lo meiser asar. Now I don't aser it. The kamali Rav Papa, because Rav Papa said that even the fish is mutter. However, v'loy mishu sharina, but I don't permit it either. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmeidu the Machloikas l'Tavel B'Tzira, and the Machloikas is only to dip in the brine. Aval B'Gufan Divrei HaKol, everybody agrees. Achei Rosh V'Shidra Nika Shel Kol Echad B'Echad. You have to have the head and the spine recognizable of each one.
Why should that be?
What?
Why should the tzir be mutter and the actual? Isn't it the fish sitting?
Well, that's why we had that's why we had earlier that Reb Zera said I didn't touch the brine. The answer is that the brine is not as chomer as eating the forbidden fish itself. So that's why they could be makel on it. Reb Zera says still it comes from something that's tamei, and therefore I'm machmer even on the brine.
So they were matter in the time.
Right.
Why are you still talking Russian shit instead of Kalki and...
Again, because the sultanis doesn't get the scales until later. Right. Right. Says the Gemara,
But they say that it's kosher.
it is kosher because it gets spines and fins later. Yosef Avchina bar Yidi coming to Ravada bar Ava, the Yosef V'kamer, Oive Kechavim Shehevi Areva Maleya Chavyas. He brought a canoe full of barrels. It was full of barrels of brine. V'nimtzes kilbis ba'achas mehem. Either one of them was shut and they found one kilbis, or it was open and they found two kilbis. So he paskined, if psuchais, if they're all opened, then kulan mutaros, because we assume that they're all kosher brine, and the other ones, the kilbis fell out. Stumais, where they couldn't fall out, he mutaros, only the one that they found the requisite amount of kilbis is kosher. The kulan asuris, the other ones are asur. Amalei minolakha. How do you know to make such a distinction? So he says, look, I have it from three solid opinions, solid people who, as if it's Torah Messinai, Mitlasa Kroi Shmieli. This is an interesting Talmudic reference comparing the great Gedolei Adar to Beferish Psukim. Merav u'Shmuel v'Rabbi Yochanan. From Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan talking about Gedolei Adar, we should again remember to learn for Rav Shmuel ben Ita Etel. He should have a refuah shalema, the Sek Shachel Yisrael. Amarav Bruna Amarav Kirvei Dogim V'uborin, the innards of fish and their eggs, what we call roe. Ein nikachin element amumcha. You could only buy from an expert in kashrus. Says the Gemara, Ramalei ula l'rebdus toidim in birei midikama rav kirvei dogin v'uborin. Ein nikachin element amumcha. You can only buy it from an expert in kashrus. Michlal the dog tomei islay uber, that a tummy dick of fish has roe, but that's not true. Uramini. Dog tame mashritz, dog tame spawns its young. Dog tar matal bayim. A kosher fish has eggs, so you see that a tummy dick of fish doesn't have roe. So why do you need a mumcha? It must be from a kosher fish. So the Gemara says, okay, sami mikanu baran, erase roe. So here we're going to get a little bit of a what's the term of a marine expert? I mean, I know this is a zoologist, but
Ichthyologist. Ichthyologist.
What's it called?
Ichthyologist.
An ichthyologist?
Yes.
I knew there was a word for it. I knew it was right at the tip of my tongue. Thank you, Dr. Block.
Ancestors was a very famous ichthyologist named Eliezer Block.
Okay, I had a feeling there was a reason you knew it. Marshall says he has at the tip of his tongue a Romanian Frankfurter.
Oh, not during the 9 days. I didn't ever see him.
Yeah, well, you could have came.
A marine biologist. The marine biologist doesn't fit that bill too?
No. That's a biologist. This is one who cares for the fish. Come on, you don't know your ichthyologist? Come on.
I know Nick is a nasty. He's in my fish tank. That's about
okay, says the Gemara, Amalei Rebbe Zera loy tisame. Don't erase it. The truth of the matter is, Travayu metile be'emnino. Both a dog tar and a dog tame produce eggs. Elazem ashritz mibachutz. The kosher egg produces the eggs outside of the body. V'zem ashritz b'mifnim. The tummy dick one produces the eggs in the body. Says the Gemara, but I don't understand. When checking the eggs, lama li mumcha, why do you need an expert? Live like b'simanim. There's signs whether an egg is kosher or an egg is not. Tanya, kisimani bayim kach simani dogim. Like the sign of the egg, so is the sign of the fish. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Simani dogim so gedaitach. Simani dogim snapper v'kaskesses are fins and scales. Ksibu. The eggs don't have fins and scales. Ella, kisimani bayim kach simani ubrei dogim. Like the sign of the egg, so is the sign of the innards. What are the sign of the eggs? Ve'elu hein simani bayim. This is very interesting. Kol shekoideres va'agulgeles. If it's round and it narrows out, if it narrows out at one side, and va'agulgeles, and it's round, rosha echad kad v'rosha echad chad, one end is flat and one end is pointed, that's Torah, that's kosher. Shnei rosha echadin, if both ends are sharp, Ushnei rosha echadin, or both ends are flat, tzmeya. Chelmon bebechutz v'chelbain bebefnim, if the yellow is on the outside and the white is on the inside, that's tmeya. Chelbain bebechutz, if it's white on the outside, v'chelbain bebefnim, and yellow on the inside, like our eggs, tahar. Chelbain v'chelbain murav zeh, if the white and the yellow are mixed together, zui beyas hasheretz. That's the bey of a sheretz. So then what do you need a mumcha? We see that there's signs of a kosher egg. Says the Gemara, I'm a rubber kishini muchai. Here it's talking about with the road liquefied, so you can't tell the simanim. Says the Gemara, l'rabdustay de ben biri, the amar sami mikan ubaran, erase from here eggs. V'tanya kisimane bayim kach simane ubare dagim. Like the signs of the egg, so is the signs of the innards of the fish. Says the Gemara, well, lav terutze kamatartzah, didn't we have to change the meaning anyway, even according to you? So then, mitartzah kach, simone kirvei dagim. What are the simonim of kirvei dagim? They are the following. Ve'echi mishkachas b'simone kirvei dagim. And where do you have the innards of the fish? She'ei kad v'chad, where one side is flat and one side is sharp. Mishkachas la b'shilfucha, with the bladder. Says the Gemara, im ein sham mumcha mai. What if you don't have an expert there? So if you don't have an expert, is there a way to tell? Amar Rav Yehuda, so Rav Yehuda says, Kavan the Amar ani melachtim, since he said, I salted it, and I saw that when I salted it, it was a kosher fish, he's believed. Mutar. As the Rishonim explain, once he said he salted it, if we would take them to an expert and they would identify it as a tamidika fish, it would ruin his business. So he wouldn't take a chance to say it. If he didn't salt it, he could say, look, I bought it from somebody and they misled me. Rav Nachman Amar Yomer Elu Dogim ve'Elu Kirvein. He has to say, these are the fish and these are its innards. I relay Rabbi Yehuda la'ad daila came into Amar Ani Malachtim. As soon as he said, I salted it, then it's mutar, because he's not going to lie, because then you could show the row to other experts and he will be found to be a liar. Now he said that a kairit shel chiltis, if he sells a grain of chiltis, it's not good, because the guy cut it with his knife and the chiltis is sharp and it takes the old blia and sweetens it. But the leaf of chiltis is not so sharp and you could buy it. So the Gemara says, Pshita, that's obvious. The grains that are adhering to the leaves, and there is some loose grains in the lot, Mao the same a nechish dilma maisi ma'arba. Maybe he put grains in that he cut with a knife. Kamash Malan, no, he sold you the leaves. They had grains, and some of them slipped off. Some slipped off, and there comes loose ones with it. Now, the Mishnah says you could buy from them v'zeise gluskois hamagulgolim. You could buy them cakes of olives which are soft. What could be wrong with a cake of olives? Pshita. If they're very soft. Now, if they're very soft, you should be concerned that he mixed in some wine. That he mixed in some wine. Kamash Malan. That the reason why it's soft is hani machmas mishchu the rafu. It's only soft because of the oil. We're going to see shlachin means if they're so soft that the pit falls out of them, then they must have added wine. If you grab it in your hand, and the pit slips out, that must have been had wine added to it. The grasshoppers that come from the basket are also because he sprays them with wine. But the grasshoppers that come from the storage, that's mutter. Because in the storage he wouldn't put wine because that could ruin the whole batch. Tan Rabbanan, hachagovim, grasshoppers, vakafrisen, and the caper berries, vakaflutais, leeks, habon mina oitzer umina heptic, from the storage and from the tank, umina svina, or from the boat, mutarin. Hanimkorim bekatluza lefnei chenveni, but that which is sold in the market from the basket in front of the shopkeeper, asurin, it's asur. Why? Because he sprays wine over them, which is of course yayin nesach, and makes it asur. V'chein yayin tapuchim shel oivdei kachavim, apple cider of a guy, habon min ha'itzer min ha'heptik, if it comes from the storage, from the tank, umin aslula, so they take out slula, because sal is a basket, and that's a problem. So they change it to or min asfina, or from the boat, mutarin. But hanimker bekatluza, but that which is sold in the market from the basket in front of him, also mipnei shema'arvim bayayin, because they mix in the apple cider wine. So now talking about apple cider, the Gemara says as follows. Tan Rabbanan, Pam achas, one time, Chosh Rebbe b'meyav. Rebbe had pain in his stomach. Lo yaleinu. Amar klum yesh adam sheyodeya yayin tapuchin shaloiv dikachavim asura mutter. Does anybody know if the apple cider, which is a refuah, is it forbidden or permitted? Amar lefanav Rebbe Shmuel b'Reb Yaisi. Pam achas Chosh Abba b'meyav. One time, my father had stomach pains. Lo yaleinu. They brought him apple cider of a guy that was aged for 70 years, so it has very therapeutic powers, and since it was aged for 70 years, it didn't have wine in it because it would have soured. He drank it and he was healed. You had this in your information, and you caused me pain by not informing me. But they found a guy, he had 300 barrels of apple cider aged 70 years. Vishasa Rebbe drank it, he was healed. Omar, and he said, Baruch HaMokam, Baruch Hashem, Shemasar Elamai L'Shaimrim. he gave his world to guardians who kept this for 70 years, so I should get better. Now the Mishnah says quite ambiguously, v'chein l'truma, and the same thing about the difference between basket and storage is said in regard to truma. So the Gemara asked, "My v'chein l'truma." What do you mean? And likewise for truma. Amar Rav Sheshes, v'chein l'koyin achoshid limkor truma l'shem chulin, a koyin who is suspected to sell truma as chulin, lefan Avoda Zara, only what he has in his basket is forbidden. Aval above min ha'oitzer min ha'heptik u'min ha'sfina, that which comes from the storage, from the tank, from the boat, mutter. Why? Because he's not going to mix truma there, because then they'll confiscate his entire storage. Is Susei Mirsas, he would be afraid. Savar Shamei by Rabbanan. Rabbanan will hear about my mischief, and they will confiscate my entire storage. Hadulach ein mamidin. Hadunalach ein mamidin. Hadulach ein mamidin. Now, Cholat Slamim Asurin, all images of a human form, Asurin is Asur Ba'ana, because they're worshipped at least one time a year. Divrei Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say they're only asur if there's some sign that they're giving it the status of a deity. So Eina asur el kol sheyesh biyadai. If the image has in its hand a makel, a stick, to show domination, or tzipor, or a bird, or kader, or a ball. You know, the queens. The queens and the kings used to hold an orb to show that they ruled over the world. Rab Shimon Gamliel Leimer af kol sheyesh biyadei kol davar, if it has anything in its hand.
I'm gonna be home probably like 5 minutes.
Okay. Says the Gemara, if they're taka worshipped once a year, then my time in the Rabbanan. Says the Gemara, the truth of the matter is such images were worshipped one time a year. Samsung SMS, you keep on unmuting. Now, if they are worshipped once a year, my time in the Rabbanan. What's the reason of the Rabbanan? Says the Gemara, the truth of the matter is that they're only worshipped one time a year in Rameir's location. Again, Samsung SMS.
I'm impressed. That's pretty good.
Who is that? Oh, it's Irving. Okay.
Oi, thing.
Again. So the Gemara says, Irving, you keep on yeah. Says the Gemara, says the Gemara, they only did it in Rav Meir's place. The rest of the place not. However, Rav Meir was chayshin on the miyuta. Rav Meir the chayish on miyuta gazu shamer kamlas otter osamakam. he was geyser to other places because of his place. V'Rabbanan deloi chayishin l'miyuta loi gazer sham mekaymas atu oisei makom. Okay, Rabbi say we did the Mishnah Yomis already. We will now have a chok. So those of you that can join us are welcome to join us. It's a very interesting chok in Zois HaBracha. It's pretty ambitious of me to learn a chok on the day that I traveled back, but with the help of Hashem, we're going to do it. Just let us, Ruvain, we need the green screen.